Our Lord is not being very original in this brief discourse with the Pharisee. What he was saying was what every good Jewish person does at least twice a day. They say the famous Shema, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one," etc. They do that twice a day, like we would do morning and evening prayer. What was unusual, I think, was that Jesus took another verse from another book of the Bible, from Leviticus, and linked it up with the love of God. And that's the verse about loving your neighbor as yourself. But that wasn't really original either, because there was another rabbi who lived at the time of Jesus who put it in a negative way, and everybody knew it. You shall not do to another what you do not want another doing to you. So none of this was original with Jesus, but the linkage is what is original. But you and I have to do a lot of cultural shifting if we're going to accept this teaching. But first of all, the question of loving your neighbor, which Jesus has already taught us in another place, the Good Samaritan parable. I mean, for these people, the neighbor, for the Bible when it was written, the neighbor was the family, the clan, the village, the tribe, the Jewish people. Beyond that, no love was expected or needed. Jesus expands that with his parable of the Samaritan, who was definitely not Jewish. But there's another shift that you and I have to make, and that is with the word love. For us in the Western world, for many, many centuries, love always has an affective element to it. It's from the heart. It has an emotional content, an attraction to the loved one. But that's not true when the Bible uses the term love. In those days, love didn't mean an affection for somebody, it meant an attachment to someone. The family, the clan, the tribe, whatever. It meant a commitment to that person. Now, granted, there was a bit of self-interest in this because the tribe took care of you just as much as you were committed to the tribe. As a matter of fact, the clan or the family took care of you to the extent that you were committed to the group. There's a bit of reciprocity here. But then there always is, even in our notion of love, affective love, there is reciprocity. The problem for us is that this notion of neighbor, once we've overcome the notion that we have to like somebody before we can love them, which is our big problem, but we have to go beyond the neighbor thing too, because you know, in those days, even if you got it into your head that the neighbor just wasn't a relative or a member of the clan or the tribe, it probably didn't go farther than 2 or 3 valleys more, because people didn't communicate. You couldn't love somebody 3 valleys away because you never saw them. In your whole lifetime, you probably never saw them. But we live in a world of technology. And it's not just the people that we work with or go to school with or live with that the love of God and the love of neighbor demand of us, but it's everybody. I mean, don't we all know about people who need love? And again, love is an affective response. It's practical response. Love means willing and doing what is good for the other. And our horizon of doing good is to the ends of the earth. I mean, if you're watching television at night, the news, for instance, does anybody not know about hundreds of thousands of people starving to death in Somalia? How can we avoid it? Now, our problem is, what do we do about it? How do we effectively love our neighbor in these circumstances? Well, I think the first suggestion I would make is that we start as close to home as we can. Because if we're not doing it with the people we rub elbows with, we're not going to do it to the Somalians or somebody else on the other side of the planet. But once we get in the habit of being concerned for the welfare of the other, without distinction, without even affection for the other, then we can ripple out. But unless we do it close at home, we will never be able to do it far away. Or doing it far away by writing a check may assuage our conscience because we're not doing it close at home. This is really challenging material, these few verses from Matthew's Gospel. Jesus says, love God. And of course, I can't affectively love God. I mean, I can. How about you? I've never seen God. I can't have an affect to God. And I don't need an affect towards my neighbor in order to love. I just do for my neighbor what God does for us. He wills what is best for us, and he asks us to will what is best for one another, to the ends of the earth. A real challenge for the Christian. It takes a lifetime to live it out, and we fail very often. Fortunately, the God who asks for our love also is very liberal with his own, and mercy and forgiveness flow from to our failures. But we must take this seriously if we are to be followers of Christ. Because when it comes down to what it means to be a Christian, it means to be like Jesus, who loved completely to the end, to death, and asked for nothing. That's a lifetime commitment and challenge.